What's going on, guys? Kevin here from thesportsgeek.com. In this video on my second YouTube channel, I'm just going to do a quick lineup review of a European Tour lineup that I had in a PGA contest at DraftKings this past week for the Made in Denmark that finished third out of 665 people. It was a $27 contest, and as you can see here, third place was good for $1,000. So pretty good ROI on the one lineup. As you can see here, I only submitted one lineup. If we look at second place, I wasn't too far behind second. I was pretty far behind first. This guy just had a killer lineup with 5 of his guys in the top 10. So it was tough to catch that guy. Had a shot at catching the guy in second, but couldn't do that. But still placed third, held on to third down the final stretch there. And you can see here, I had the winner of the tournament, Thomas Pieters. I also had the second place finisher, Bradley Dredge. And then I had everyone inside the top 26. So pretty solid lineup there. And there wasn't too much that went into creating this lineup besides using the Fantasy Labs Sports Geek model that you guys will all have access to if you have a Fantasy Labs account. It's one of the pro models there that you can copy over into your own models and use that and just put together a lineup just by using the tools here on the model page, looking at long-term form and recent form for these players. So as you can see here, 3 of the players, Thomas Pieters, who won the tournament, was actually ranked first in my model, which was pretty cool to see. And 3 of the players here were ranked top 6 in my model. So when I went with Pieters, couldn't really go with Keimer at 12,400, so I skipped over him. I went with Burmeister, and then went down to Bradley Dredge at 9,700, Carlson at 79, Parator at 6,000, so pretty cheap and ranking pretty high on the model. And then, and then down a little bit further to Kaplan. So everyone on this model ranked in the darker greens. You can see it gets lighter green down here, and then usually some red at the bottom. But it's really dark green for the top rated players, and then still dark green for anyone ranked above 55 here. So I usually stick with, for at least for European Tour, where I don't do as much research and I don't know the players as much as PGA Tour, I'm usually always sticking near the top of my Sports Geek model. With PGA Tour, I might have some insight or something, just a feeling about a certain player just because I watch it a lot, where I might go down and select someone who's ranking lower in my model. But for European Tour, I always stick to the top guys. And I only did the one lineup, so I didn't do too much research, so I can't really remember how I got down to some of these guys that are a little further down. Parator, probably just because he was pretty cheap. But I'm not really sure how I got on Kaplan, since there's some people that are cheaper than him or around his price, a little higher in the model. But usually I just look at things like recent form and just kind of look at the course fit and see how that works. So I know with the Made in Denmark, I was really big on driving distance. So all the guys I had in my lineup were pretty big drivers of the golf ball. You can see recent form driving distance here on Fantasy Labs. Kaplan was 310, Parator 305, Carlson, not as much length out of Carlson at 297, but still a good play. Burmeister, just hammering the ball, with 332, Pieters 302, and Dredge 295. So that was one thing I looked at, was driving distance for that tournament specifically, and just use the Sports Geek model. I usually go through maybe the top 20 or so golfers at least and look at their game log and just see how they've been doing recently. If you look at Thomas Pieters, he's been absolutely killing it. After a good placing in the Olympics, he went second and then first. So he was pretty easy to include in my lineups. I was actually surprised. He was about, 20% owned? 19.2% owned. So I thought he'd be quite a bit higher, but a lot of people went other places. A lot of people went down to Sullivan, who missed the cut. So I was lucky to avoid him. It was a second straight missed cut. So I guess I was kind of surprised that his ownership was high compared to Pieters, just given that he's coming off a missed cut. And you can see here, he doesn't rank too high on my Sports Geek model. A lot of people were on Keljason, however you pronounce his name. And that was a good play. I think he finished maybe tied for 7th or something. He was pretty high up there. But with Pieters in my lineup, and then Dredge, I couldn't really fit another expensive player. So I went down to some cheaper guys. So there wasn't too much into this lineup besides using the Sports Geek model and then looking at stuff like recent form, long-term form, and their game logs. So as you can see here, most of the players rank in about the top 15 or so in the Sports Geek model. I went off the board on one pick. but 3 of the guys in the top 6 here on the Sports Geek. So basically just created this lineup using the Sports Geek Pro model at Fantasy Labs. If you don't have an account at Fantasy Labs, highly recommend it. As always, I'll leave a link in the YouTube description. You can sign up for that. Highly recommend you sign up for the year so you can get the NFL tools as well. And other than that, keep an eye out for my PGA picks probably coming later today. Good luck in your contest, guys. Hope you guys make some money. Cheers.